My favorite moment of any Star Wars film has to be the final confrontation between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader within the Emperor's throne room on the second Death Star. Having dismantled Vader during their duel and on the brink of giving in to his fears to accept the power of the dark side, Luke rose to reject the path that led his father astray, choosing the light and the ways of the Jedi. In the end, the act would propel Vader to rescue his son, destroying the Emperor as he was redeemed to once again become Anakin Skywalker. But while Luke was able to reject the dark side during the events of Episode 6, when the Emperor returned through the assistance of cloning technology and the dark side force ability known as Essence Transfer 6 years later, Luke gave in to the dark side and joined Palpatine. Although Luke would ultimately find his way back to the light, the Legends lore includes a great recording made by Luke that explains his reasoning for joining Palpatine. Even more importantly, it revealed a new understanding of the dark side this experience provided him, where he would stress the importance of why Jedi shouldn't fear or unquestionably dismiss anything associated with the dark side. Instead, Luke believed Jedi needed to accept the dark side would always exist, and thus it should be viewed as a tool for learning. As revealed within Luke's recording made at his Jedi Praxium on Yavin 4, the catalyst for this understanding from Luke was his own path and knowledge of the dark side gained through the events of the original trilogy. Early in Luke's training, even as he learned from Yoda on Dagobah, he was certain that he was immune from the dark side, something he could easily handle and conquer. Ultimately, Luke would recognize he couldn't be more wrong, tempted by the dark side when he faced Darth Vader on Cloud City, and a scene within the Episode 6 novelization, again when confronting the Sith on the Death Star. Luke would learn from these errors, knowing that his Jedi training wasn't complete, and anyone, including himself, could be tempted by the dark side. And yet, reflecting on his actions in joining Palpatine 1 year later, Luke explained that when Palpatine returned as a clone, he chose the dark side because he had to know what his father Darth Vader experienced and what the dark side was for himself. But along with his path during the original trilogy, this experience provided Luke with an incredible amount of knowledge and insight regarding the dark side, and what a Jedi's relationship to it should be, helping in their fight against it. First and foremost, Luke revealed in his recording on Yavin 4 that even the most noble of Jedi could be seduced by the dark side and were vulnerable to it, regardless of whether or not they were curious about its power, easily angered or frustrated, or envious of others. The dark side preyed upon everyone's subconscious fears, no matter what they believed their predisposition to the dark side was. Because of this truth, Luke was confident that Jedi needed to recognize this and approach the dark side as a source of great potential insight. It wasn't beneficial to merely reject the dark side out of fear of it, as at some point, the dark side would speak to every Jedi. Instead, it would be a powerful tool to learn how to identify the dark side by better defining how it was interacting with them based upon their own emotions. For example, if a Jedi knew they were being targeted by the dark side, and they recognized this, knowing that this aspect of the Force was always surrounding them, they could use this knowledge and the presence of the dark side for further enlightenment or simply to help others, which would ultimately serve the light in the end. But at the same time, when the dark side did speak to them, Jedi had to be aware of whether they were acting in ways that promoted their own advancement, anger, or revenge, at which point they needed to reject it and not act within that moment. As Luke understood, this could only be successfully achieved if a Jedi approached the dark side and its inevitable presence within their lives with calm and passivity, where the dark side's existence was accepted and then identified through the Jedi's own experience and practice. If a Jedi approached this unavoidable situation with fear, or in underestimating the dark side, believing they were immune to it, they would be far too susceptible to act in ways that benefited the dark side and started them down the path to eventually joining it. At the root of it all, thanks to his experiences during the original trilogy and 6 years after the Battle of Endor when he joined the returned Emperor, Luke explained that the dark side could never be conquered or extinguished, just as could never be achieved against the light side. Therefore, a Jedi shouldn't fear this reality or the presence of the dark side, instead learning that there were valuable lessons to be learned when identifying instances when the dark side was potentially influencing them, and then acting accordingly out of a place of calm. For Luke, the lesson of Darth Vader and his own experiences with the dark side showed him that any individual could be redeemed back into the light, and thus, the Jedi needed to turn the existence of the dark side into a strength by working correctly within it, rather than fearing it and opposing anything that approached the dark side. The interesting aspect to this view from Luke is that it was the same conclusion that was found within the teachings of the Jedi Order roughly 4,000 years before Luke's conclusion following his own path with the dark side. In attempting to explain the fall of Ulic Qel-Droma, Jedi Master Talaris Shim provided his own insights into the dark side following the devastation of the Great Sith War. While Talaris and Luke might argue about the possibility of redemption in all cases, they would agree on one important point of wisdom. Regardless of one's intentions, all Jedi, even the most disciplined within the Order, would eventually step onto the path in some way that led to the dark side. Because of this inevitability, Talaris was adamant that Jedi shouldn't be encouraged to avert their gaze from the shadows, nor to blind themselves with the light. That is, to be unquestionably fearful of the dark side, and to view one's role to simply treat it with hostility. For Talaris, a Jedi couldn't avoid the dark side unless one knew where it was, and the routes that led to it. Therefore, there was wisdom to be found within the dark side, which required a true Jedi Master to be always mindful of its presence. This was also Luke's primary conclusion within his recording made at the Jedi Praxium on Yavin 4 7 years after the Battle of Endor, and his belief that the ever-present dark side couldn't be conquered, and thus needed to be viewed without fear as a potential tool that could better help the Jedi fight against the dark side, helped to redefine Jedi wisdom that had been seen within the Order 4 millennia previously. So there we have it, Luke's thoughts about the dark side after he joined Palpatine following the Battle of Endor. Thank you very much to all of the Patreon members of Star Wars Reading Club, as your support is so greatly appreciated. You can find all of our social media links and a link to our Star Wars gaming channel in the description below, for updates and even more Star Wars content. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions. Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me... For Ulic Qel-Droma.